Hey everybody, this is another TFTGGW Chat. This is the third one because I don't have any music for this month. And I'm here with some very cool people, some of whom you heard before and one of whom you may have heard on a different podcast. And we just recorded a fun Star Frontiers playtest of these rules that I've been working on to revise the game. But we'll talk about that in the actual Star Frontiers episodes. For now, let's talk to the folks who are here. We have Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, hi.
Brandon, who you've heard on several things before. And we have Pavel.
Hello.
Hi, Pavel.
It's me again.
And you've also heard him on several things before, both of them especially on the Lumpen episodes. And then we have Rhett, the DM for the Stack O' Dice podcast, who we're extremely excited to have here after he let me run a Pathfinder game. Thanks for joining us, Rhett.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it to introduce us to that system. It's one that I've been wanting to try for a long time. And I'll tell you, I've been so impressed with your show. Started, December of 22, I think, and blitzed through it. And it was just a lot of fun to get to know you and the gang through the audio format.
Yeah, likewise. I've really enjoyed Stack of Dice. You have some really cool tweaks for how you run the game, especially leveling up, that I have really enjoyed. In fact, I've thought about maybe we should do something similar to that for Star Frontiers because the experience points are in a similar kind of range.
Yeah, I guess, as we were handing them out at the end of the last session, I thought it's very similar. So the 10 experience points did not, or 5 experience points did not feel paltry.
And I think that would be a cool thing to do. So I guess tell everybody what you do for experience points for those who haven't listened.
Sure. So basically we run on I believe it was in an Unearthed Arcana article by the official D&D crew, but they call it the 3-pillar experience technique or approach, however you want to phrase it, where experience is awarded on the basis of combat, which is not unusual in most games anyway, exploration, and interaction. And basically, it's rewarding other means of expanding the world through gameplay. And what's nice about it, especially for new players, is every level is 100 experience points. If you are familiar with 5th edition D&D rules, and really all the editions have very wonky number targets. First level in 5th edition is 300, second level is 1200, and so on. And it varies. Some levels are actually more, and then levels after them, you require a smaller number of experience points. It's hit or miss as to, and keeping new players up with, well, what am I aiming for this time? With 100, you know what you're getting. And if you hit 100 and go beyond it, then you're that many points into the next level.
Yeah.
And we also offer opportunity at the end of each episode to have the players talk about things that they liked, and those are eligible for extra experience points. And so it's just been a lot of fun to see not only the players latch onto it, but how it helps to propel the game and working experience gain into more aspects of play.
I would say that last bit at the end, I still don't know if I like the 3-pillar experience system. I mean, it's neat. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but that last bit at the end, where y'all do what y'all call the Norse battle, I really like that. And I'm probably going to start using that in my home games for sure.
Mm. Oh, cool. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a great way to recap what just happened and to, oh yeah, that's right, you did that. And reward people for the stuff that they've done. So yeah, Norse Battle has been a really fun part of the level experience gain in our episodes. I'm glad you like it.
So does that mean that different players would have different numbers of experience?
Yeah, although it's managed to stay fairly close, and it varies. Sometimes one player will perform really well in a game and get maybe 5 or 6 extra experience points, but then the next time they're quieter, and so they get fewer, and it tends to self-level.
Cool.
Yeah, I think as long as your players are good at sharing the spotlight and are cognizant of that, it seems like, it's like I said, it'll kind of self-level out. And another thing I've noticed is if your players especially will notice when someone's falling behind, and they'll try to work extra hard to either give them opportunities during the game, or they'll scratch their heads harder at the end of the episode, like, oh, come on, you must have done something cool. Give us a reason to give you 5 more XP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, that's a lot of fun too, because emphasizes the teamwork aspect of the game. It moves it from just the players in or the characters in game to the players now lobbying for each other. And I'm also open to self-promotion. In fact, that was the original intent, was that players would kind of jockey with each other for extra XP, but I'm glad it's worked out the way it has.
Yeah. Pavel, you're also thinking about starting your own actual play podcast. Do you want to tell us anything about what you're imagining for that?
Sure.
Or would it spoil things?
I don't think it'll spoil things because I'm almost certainly going to have kind of like a mini episode intro to the world. So this world concept I fully stole from a Redditor whose username I unfortunately don't remember at the moment, but I will give them credit, in episodes. But the premise of the world is that it's effectively this infinitely long tube. The same way that our world and just about every world in fiction, it's a planet, it's a sphere. This one is just an infinitely long tube of, presumably Earth. So when you're standing on the surface, much like when you're standing on a planet, it just seems, it's normal flat surface. And the major difference is, aside from the fact that it's infinitely long, the sun spirals around the tube. And I'm making a motion with my hand here. I really need to figure out how to do this, how to explain this verbally in more succinct fashion. But the sun spirals around the tube and it keeps going sort of down in what I call south. So that if you're not somewhere near the sun in the habitable zone, everything freezes. It gets like science fiction levels of cold, where the atmosphere itself freezes and just nothing can live there. So every single person, animal, plant life, everything has to be constantly moving south to stay within the habitable zone. They don't have to move fast. If you have a slow walking pace, you can do it, and any given area stays habitable for something like 100 years. But it does mean that you can't just build a giant castle and then defend it for generations. You can't really have any meaningful fortifications. You can't really build up any amount of wealth that you can't carry on your person or strap to a horse. So there's no ancient ruins unless they happen to basically saw in the south as the sun starts approaching there.
I remember you talking about this setting, like, it might have been a couple of years ago at this point. You wanted to turn it into a campaign. And I thought it would be like really cool as a podcast. I'm really glad you're doing this. There's so many interesting kind of concepts that we talked about. But I love the idea of, ancient ruins thawing out, like new things appearing frozen below, which makes you wonder, where did they come from if the sun is just constantly going down?
Yeah.
Now, this isn't a torus, right? It's just a straight line?
Correct.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so there's no... as far as anyone knows, and that's another thing about the world is that, there's so much unknown. In fact, there's some people who don't remember that this is what the world is like. So, it's entirely possible that there's whole civilizations that just think, oh, okay, it's getting slightly colder. Oh, it's getting slightly colder. And maybe some of them just go under the ice because they don't, bother to think about what the world is like.
They don't realize that the sun is moving away from them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting world building.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I love a game setting where something about the setting breaks the standard rules of how we think about fantasy or how we think about how a world works, right? I love that. It allows you to just do something completely different that no one's done before and have characters who think about the world differently, right? That is very cool. I'm excited to hear it. I'm going to do some of the music for it if you let me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's like there's so many world building implications just by having this one simple fact, right? Like the economics of the world are entirely different from what we would normally think about. Every little piece of life is different because of this one thing.
Yeah. And true wealth would have to be the most portable.
Right.
Yeah, it's friendship, obviously.
Yes, of course. Friends with me along the way as we continue to run from the cold. Yeah.
I mean, that would actually be the case, right? Because the bonds you form help you survive and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I have a whole doc full of world-building stuff. Most of his questions I haven't yet answered. Some of those are questions I'm really afraid of the players asking me. Like, if a player asks me, so how far away is the sun? I have no answer to that. I haven't done the math. I don't know. I mean, I know it's a magic world, so I can justify any given answer that I want.
Yeah.
But I want it to be, somewhat internally consistent.
So if you were like too close to the area the sun is, would it be like too hot to be habitable, or would that be like an equatorial zone, or what would that be?
Yeah, it's mostly kind of turns into a desert or like a humid jungle situation, kind of depending on the rest of the world. And that's another thing, there's mountain ranges. I have no idea how that affects the weather. I'm not a meteorologist. One day a player's going to ask.
Yeah, and if there are mountain ranges going, like, if you come across mountain ranges suddenly, that presents a huge challenge to just, your journey of following the sun.
Yep, you got to go over, maybe under, maybe around, who knows?
Because everyone in the world will eventually have to cross these mountains.
Yep.
Yeah, and that really ups the ante of making a wrong turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, oceans too. Then.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm excited for that. So, Brandon, when are you going to start yours?
If I started a podcast, my wife would probably murder me. She's already very happy that I've switched from running a D&D campaign to just making a comic about it.
But consider the following, what if she's one of the players on the podcast?
So when I started playing D&D, my child was probably like 1 year old, I think, or less than 1 year old. We were still sleep training her. We were living in Vancouver, and I'd been listening to the Adventure Zone at its very early beginnings, and thought I could do this. It seems like fun. I'll buy the starter set, and we got people I knew, and my wife was one of them. I'm very impressed with her. This isn't her thing. But she was game, and she gave it a shot. We came up with a character for her together. And our games were, frequently interrupted by a crying child who was supposed to be asleep, but wasn't. And when you're sleep training a kid and playing D&D at the same time, so you're supposed to let the child cry it out for a while. And so we were like, fighting goblins while the child is screaming. So that was a fun aspect to it. But yeah, it's my wife, gave it a good shot, but it's not her thing.
Fair enough. Not for everybody. Wow. Thanks, everybody, for joining and chatting about everything. I can't wait for everybody to hear the Star Frontiers stuff, because I think it's going pretty well.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm going to do a campaign, and I'm hoping that some of you would be interested in joining a campaign. I don't know if it would be on this feed or the Tales of Bob feed, but it would be on one of them. I guess we talk about in the episode a bit, but Rhett, you're planning to probably do something else after your current story ends, which is getting close, just like we're getting close.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're approaching the end game here, and it's been, like I said earlier, 6 years in the making. So it feels like this is something that is just going to keep on going. But all good stories come to an end,
right?
So we're looking at wrapping it up and then trying to figure out what happens next. I like the world. I don't want to abandon it. I think there's plenty of good still to be had in exploring it. So we're just trying to figure out what comes next.
Excellent.
Okay, I gotta know though, before the show ends, are we gonna get to meet any elves?
That would be telling.
I don't know.
That's true. I guess it is up to the players, huh?
I'll never tell.
All right, yeah, I'm intrigued by the current mystery that they're exploring, but I guess I won't say anything for folks who are catching up to Stack of Dice.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you helping us out. And I'll be airing those Star Frontiers episodes pretty soon, actually, because we don't have much of a backlog of audio. But thanks to the listeners for listening, and you'll hear more from us soon. Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.